January 1st arrives. You boldly declare, I am going to study English for 4 hours every single day.
We all know that feeling, right? You're just so motivated.
Exactly. But then, fast forward exactly 14 days, you are completely exhausted, your new textbook is just collecting dust on a shelf, and you have entirely quit.
Yeah, it is a very familiar cycle.
It really is. So, welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are looking at why our brains actively sabotage these massive goals and, well, how we can hack our daily routines to learn English without ever relying on motivation again.
Right, because relying on motivation is usually where the problem starts.
Exactly. And the source material we are exploring today comes from a really fascinating 3-part transcript from the Mr. English channel.
Yeah, and the central focus of this entire series is understanding the hidden mechanical power of very small daily habits, and why our traditional methods of studying almost always set us up to fail.
Okay, let's unpack this. Usually when we fail at a big goal, like learning a language, we just blame ourselves, you know?
Right, we think, oh, I am just lazy.
Exactly. We think we just do not have enough willpower or discipline. But the sources suggest that relying on motivation is actually our very first major mistake. So why is motivation such a bad strategy for long-term learning?
Well, because motivation is essentially a biological resource, and it's a very limited one. Think of motivation like your smartphone battery.
Okay, a battery. Makes sense.
Yeah. When you wake up in the morning after a good night of sleep, that battery might be at 100%. But every single decision you make throughout your day, it drains it.
Like what kind of decisions?
I mean, navigating traffic, answering difficult emails at work, even just deciding what to cook for dinner, all of this consumes your battery power.
Oh, wow. So just living your normal life drains it.
Exactly. So by 7 o'clock in the evening, when you finally sit down at your desk with the intention of studying English, your battery is at like 2%. You are in low power mode.
Right. So you simply do not have the battery left to power up a heavy demanding application like a full language learning section.
Precisely. If we want to succeed at learning English over the long term, we have to stop expecting our batteries to be full at the end of the day.
That is such a huge shift in perspective.
It is. We need a system that functions perfectly well, even when we only have 2% battery left.
So if motivation is just a battery that constantly drains, we cannot fight our own exhaustion with just brute force. We have to figure out how to sneak past the brain's defenses.
Yes. We have to understand the biology of laziness.
Right. According to the text, our brains actually fight against us when we try to spend energy. Can we break down the mechanics of why that happens?
Absolutely. We have to look at how the human body consumes energy. So your brain is a very small percentage of your overall body weight.
Okay.
But it consumes a massive portion of your body's glucose, which is its primary fuel.
Really? Just to do everyday thinking?
Yeah. From an evolutionary perspective, the brain's main job is just to keep you alive. And to do that, it tries to save or hoard as much energy as possible.
Ah, I see.
And building new neural pathways, which is exactly what is happening in your brain when you memorize new English vocabulary or figure out a grammar rule that is physically exhausting.
It burns a lot of fuel.
Right. It requires a big surge of glucose. So when you try to sit down for a massive 4-hour study session, your brain triggers a biological alarm system.
It says, wait, no, stop spending all this energy.
Exactly.
Okay.
It actively resists the action to conserve your energy for survival.
And this resistance leads to what the sources identify as the all-or-nothing trap.
Yes, a very dangerous trap for learners.
We sit there feeling tired and we think, well, I do not have the mental energy to read this entire chapter tonight, so I will just read 0 pages.
Right, the all-or-nothing mindset.
We convince ourselves that if we cannot study perfectly for a whole hour, it is not even worth studying at all.
And that mindset is incredibly destructive. When we adopt an all-or-nothing mindset, we almost always end up with nothing. And mathematically, 0 practice yields 0 progress.
Yeah, you get exactly what you put in, nothing.
The brain literally tricks you into believing that a tiny amount of effort is useless just so it can go back to resting.
The sources actually use a fantastic physical analogy to explain this resistance. They compare starting a new habit to pushing a heavy car that is broken down on the street.
Oh, yes. The car analogy is brilliant.
Right. The absolute hardest part of moving that car is the very first push. When the car is completely stationary, you are fighting against all of its resting weight.
And all the friction from the tires.
Exactly. You have to push with your absolute maximum effort just to move it a single inch. But once the car is rolling, momentum takes over.
It feels much lighter.
Right. You can keep it moving down the street with just a fraction of the effort.
It is a perfect representation of physical inertia. The brain fights that first initial push because that push requires the most energy.
So if the hardest part is just getting the car to roll, how do we trick ourselves into giving it that first push without triggering the brain's alarm system?
Well, the sources introduce a mathematical concept known as the 1% rule.
Okay, the 1% rule. How does that work?
The logic here is that you completely abandon the idea of giant, dramatic changes. You do not try to learn 100 new words in a single weekend.
Which is a relief, honestly.
Yeah. Instead, your only goal is to become just 1% better at English every single day.
I have to admit, I struggle with this concept just a bit.
Why is that?
Just 1%. I mean, if I only know 100 English words, 1% is literally one single word. That feels entirely too slow.
It does feel slow at first.
Right. At that pace, how could anyone possibly become fluent?
Well, it feels slow in the short term, but you have to look at the mathematics of compound interest.
Okay, compound interest.
Yeah.
Like in a bank account.
Exactly like a bank account. If you improve by just 1% every day, those tiny improvements do not just add up. They multiply. They compound on top of yesterday's progress.
Oh, I see.
The math shows that a 1% daily improvement makes you 37 times better by the end of one single year.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because they are not saying you are 37% better. They are saying you are 37 times better than when you started.
Exactly. The sources compare this to a tiny snowball rolling down a snow-covered hill.
A snowball. Right.
When you hold it at the top of the hill, it is so small it seems totally insignificant. But as it rolls, it picks up more snow.
And the larger it gets, the more surface area it has to pick up even more snow.
Right. By the time it reaches the bottom of the hill, that tiny snowball has become a massive, unstoppable boulder. That is the mechanical reality of the 1% rule.
Understanding the math behind compound interest is great in theory. But, let's look at the reality of daily life.
Sure, let's look at it practically.
When you get home from a long day and you are staring at your English textbook, thinking about mathematics is not going to magically open the book for you.
No, it definitely will not.
If the brain is actively trying to save energy, we need a very practical way to force the heavy car to start rolling.
Yes, we need a strategy that shrinks the energy requirement down so low that the brain simply cannot justify saying no.
And that strategy is what the sources call the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule, yes.
The rule states that any new habit you are trying to build must take less than 2 minutes to complete.
Less than 2 minutes. That is the hard limit.
So if your overarching goal is to improve your English, your daily requirement is not to study grammar for an hour. Your daily requirement is to open the book and read one single sentence.
Or, your goal is to write just 3 words in a notebook. That is the entire task.
But wait, I have to play devil's advocate here because it sounds almost too easy.
Go ahead.
We just established that learning a language is a complex process. Does doing something for only 120 seconds actually make a difference? You cannot possibly master English grammar in 2 minutes a day.
That is a very valid critique, but it misses the actual purpose of the 2-minute rule.
Okay, what am I missing?
The primary goal of the 2 minutes is not to finish your studying. The goal is solely to start the behavior.
Just to start it.
Yes. When you tell yourself you only have to read one sentence, you are bypassing the brain's natural resistance. Your brain cannot tell you that it lacks the energy to read a single sentence.
Right. You remove the friction of that first push.
Precisely. And this ties right back into the heavy car analogy. The absolute hardest part is simply sitting down and opening the book.
Because once you read that first sentence, the car is already in motion.
Exactly. You are already focused. In practice, what almost always happens is that you finish the first sentence and think, well, I'm already here. I might as well read the next one.
Because the friction is gone.
Right. And before you know it, you've been studying for 20 minutes.
Yeah.
All because you tricked your brain into taking that first 2-minute step.
But let's say someone is truly exhausted, and after exactly 2 minutes, they just close the book and go to sleep. Did they still accomplish anything?
Yes, absolutely. And this is perhaps the most crucial psychological insight in the source material.
Really? Even if it was just 2 minutes?
Even if you start after exactly 2 minutes, you have still won. Why? Because you are building the identity of someone who consistently studies English.
Wow, identity. That is interesting.
Yeah. In the beginning phases of learning, building the habit of showing up every single day is actually far more important than the specific vocabulary you learn. You are proving to yourself that you are reliable.
That makes a lot of sense. So, shrinking the task down to 2 minutes solves the energy problem. The brain cannot complain about a 2-minute task.
Exactly.
However, this creates a completely new problem. A 2-minute task is incredibly brief, which makes it incredibly easy to forget.
It is very easy to forget, yes.
If you do not need a big block of time in your calendar to do it, how do you actually remember to do this tiny action every single day amidst a chaotic schedule?
This is where we transition from psychology to routine mechanics. The sources introduce a concept called habit stacking.
Habit stacking.
Yeah.
How does that work?
To understand this, we have to look at the routines you already possess. Every single day, your brain performs certain actions on autopilot.
Like brushing your teeth.
Yes. You brush your teeth, you make your bed, you lock your front door, or you wait for the morning train.
Right. Things you do without even thinking.
Exactly. These are established neural pathways. They are rock-solid, automatic habits that require zero motivation to perform.
So instead of trying to create a brand new routine out of thin air, we take advantage of the routines that already exist.
Exactly. Habit stacking means you take your new, very fragile habit, like reading one English sentence, and you physically attach it to one of your established automatic habits.
Let's look at some concrete examples of how a learner might apply this. Let's take the morning coffee routine.
That is a great one.
A lot of people have a deeply ingrained habit of making a cup of coffee the moment they wake up. If we use habit stacking, your new rule becomes after I pour my morning coffee, I will immediately open my app and learn 3 new English words.
Perfect. And what is happening mechanically here is that you are removing the burden from your memory.
Because the coffee reminds you.
Yes. You do not need to rely on your own willpower to remember, and you do not even need to set an alarm on your phone. The environment itself becomes the trigger.
The physical smell of the coffee brewing acts as the signal to your brain that it is time for English practice.
Exactly. The sources specifically mention a tool that pairs perfectly with this kind of short, stacked routine. It is called Mr. English AI.
Right. It is a mobile application that allows you to practice English in very short bursts.
Yeah. And because it is immediately accessible on your phone, you can easily stack it with waiting for the bus or sitting with that cup of coffee.
You can just open it, do a 2-minute grammar exercise, and put it away.
Tools like that are particularly effective for language learners because they also address a major emotional barrier.
Which is?
Well, human beings are deeply afraid of looking foolish in front of other people.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when speaking a new language.
Exactly. When you are learning a language, you are going to mispronounce words. You are going to use the wrong verb tense.
It is unavoidable.
Yeah. So practicing with an AI creates a completely safe, judgment-free space where you can make those inevitable mistakes without the fear of social embarrassment.
Which naturally leads us to the final piece of the puzzle.
What is that?
We have solved the energy problem with the 2-minute rule. We have solved the memory problem with habit stacking. But what about the physical friction in our daily lives?
Ah, yes. The physical environment.
The sources dedicate significant time to something called environment design. Even if we have a trigger like morning coffee, if our physical space is full of distractions, the habit might still fail.
Yes, because the central philosophy of environment design is that willpower is incredibly weak, but convenience is incredibly strong.
Willpower is weak, convenience is strong. I love that.
It is so true. If you want to change your behavior permanently, you have to alter your physical surroundings.
So what is the rule here?
The rule provided is brilliantly simple. You must make your bad habits hard to do, and you must make your good habits easy to do.
Let's test this practically. Let's say a learner's bad habit is immediately turning on the television when they get home, instead of doing their 2 minutes of English.
Okay, a very common scenario.
To make the bad habit hard, the sources suggest taking the TV remote control and hiding it in a drawer in a completely different room.
Yes.
But wait, hiding a remote only takes 5 seconds to undo. You just walk into the other room and open the drawer. Does adding such a tiny physical barrier actually stop a bad habit?
It really does, because it is not about making the bad habit impossible. It is about breaking the mindless automatic loop.
Ah, I see.
When the remote is sitting on the coffee table, turning on the TV requires zero conscious thought. Your hand just reaches for it.
Right, you do it without even noticing.
But when you have to physically stand up, walk to another room, and open a drawer, you are adding friction. You are giving your brain 5 seconds to wake up.
And ask, wait, is this actually what I want to be doing right now?
Exactly. And often, that 5-second pause is all you need to break the cycle.
You are forcing yourself to make a conscious choice instead of an automatic one.
Exactly.
So that covers making bad habits hard. How do we make the good habits effortless? We want to remove all friction from our English practice.
Well, if you are using an app to learn English, you do not want it hidden inside a folder on the 3rd page of your phone screen.
Right, out of sight, out of mind.
Yes. You want to move that app to the very first spot on your home screen. It should be the absolute first thing your eyes see when you unlock your device.
You are putting the good habit directly in your own path.
Exactly. And the sources offer a wonderful physical example of this involving a bedtime routine.
Oh, the toothbrush example.
Yes. Let's say you decide to stack your English practice with brushing your teeth at night.
Okay.
To make the good habit completely frictionless, you take your English notebook and your pen, and you place them on the bathroom counter.
Physically resting on top of your toothpaste.
That is a perfect example of environment design.
It really is, because you literally cannot brush your teeth without picking up the notebook.
Right.
You have manufactured a situation where it is actually harder to ignore your English practice than it is to just do it. The visual cue is unavoidable.
You do not have to search for your study materials. They are waiting for you.
By designing your space this way, you are outsourcing your discipline. You are letting your physical environment do the heavy lifting of reminding you.
You are no longer hoping that you will feel motivated at the end of the day.
Exactly. You have engineered a reliable physical system that gently pushes you toward your goal.
It is brilliant.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's bring all of these mechanical pieces together.
Let's do it.
If you want to master the English language or any complex new skill, you have to let go of the fantasy of the exhausting 4-hour study session.
Yes. Stop relying on your motivation battery because it will inevitably run out.
Instead, recognize that your brain wants to save energy and work with that biology, not against it.
Trust the mathematics of compound interest. A 1% daily improvement creates massive momentum over time.
And to get that heavy car rolling, use the 2-minute rule. Give yourself full permission to read just one single sentence a day.
Bypass the brain's alarm system.
Then, ensure you never forget by using habit stacking. Attach that short sentence to a reliable daily action, like making your morning coffee.
And finally, design your environment for success.
Put your English app on the front screen of your phone and leave your notebook next to your toothbrush. Make the good habits incredibly easy.
Because mathematically, reading 1 page is infinitely better than reading 0 pages.
It absolutely is.
I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder as we wrap up today.
Go ahead.
We discussed how doing a tiny action every day proves to yourself that you are a consistent learner, right? It shifts your identity.
Right.
So if you can bypass your brain's laziness, establish a new positive habit in just 2 minutes, and practice in a safe space where mistakes are just data for improvement.
What is the question?
What is the very first 2-minute action you're going to take the moment this audio finishes?
Oh, wow.
And how might that tiny rolling snowball change who you are a year from now?
That is a fantastic question to leave on. Remember, getting that heavy car to move only takes one small strategic push.
Exactly.
Once you are rolling, you will be amazed at the distance you can cover. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the mechanics of habits.
We wish you the absolute best on your language learning journey.
Keep rolling that snowball.